Many adults want to improve their English, but they often feel that they do not have enough time. The work, family responsibilities, and daily tasks can make it difficult to sit down and study for long periods. The fame, because of this, some people believe that learning English is only possible if they have many free hours each day. However, the truth is that you do not need long study sessions to make progress. Small, consistent practice sessions can be very powerful. Even 10 or 15 minutes a day can help your English improve steadily over time. The key is learning how to use small moments in your daily routine. Busy adults often have short periods of free time during the day. These small moments may happen while commuting, waiting in line, walking, or taking a short break. But instead of letting these moments pass, you can turn them into opportunities to practice English. For example, imagine that you are commuting to work. During this time, you can listen to an English podcast designed for learners. The listening to clear and simple English helps your brain become familiar with the sounds of the language. Over time, your listening skills improve, and understanding spoken English becomes easier. Another useful moment for practice might be while walking or exercising. During this time, you can listen to short English lessons or repeat simple sentences you already know. The This type of repetition helps strengthen your memory and improve pronunciation. Even a short 5-minute break can become a learning opportunity. You might review a few vocabulary words, read a short paragraph in English, or practice speaking a few sentences out loud. These small actions may seem simple, but when you repeat them every day, they create strong learning habits. The biggest advantages of short, daily practice sessions is consistency. When practice becomes part of your daily routine, your brain begins to expect and prepare for it. Instead of thinking of English as a difficult subject that requires long study sessions, you begin to see it as a natural part of your day. For example, you might decide that every morning you will spend 10 minutes listening to English. In the evening, you might spend another 10 minutes repeating sentences or speaking about your day. This routine does not require a large amount of time, but it creates regular exposure to the language. The regular exposure is very important for language learning. Each time you hear English, your brain strengthens its understanding of sounds, vocabulary, and sentence structure. The more often you interact with the language, the more familiar it becomes. Another benefit of short practice sessions is that they are easier to maintain. The long study sessions can feel exhausting, especially after a busy day at work. But short sessions feel manageable because they require less effort. You are more likely to continue them consistently. For example, practicing English for 15 minutes a day may feel simple and achievable. But if you do this every day for a month, you will have practiced for more than 7 hours. Over a year, those small sessions add up to many hours of learning. Busy adults can also combine English practice with activities they already do every day. This approach saves time and reduces the need for special study sessions. Oh, for instance, you can listen to English audio while cooking, cleaning, or driving. Another helpful idea is setting small, daily goals. Your goal might be learning 3 new words, repeating 5 sentences, or listening to one short podcast segment. These small goals create a sense of progress and keep you motivated. When you complete these small goals each day, you begin to see improvement gradually. The words become easier to remember. Sentences become easier to remember. Sentences become easier to understand, and speaking begins to feel more comfortable. It is also important to remember that language learning is a long-term process. Progress does not happen overnight. The Instead, it grows slowly through consistent effort. Each small practice session strengthens your skills and builds your confidence. Busy schedules do not have to stop you from learning English. By using small time blocks throughout the day, you can continue practicing even when life is busy. The important thing is to stay consistent and keep moving forward. With patience and regular practice, these small daily moments can create meaningful progress. By step, your listening, speaking, and vocabulary will improve. Over time, you will notice that English becomes easier to understand and easier to use in everyday situations. BIST. In this way, even the busiest adults can build strong English skills simply by making the most of the small moments in their daily lives. One of the most powerful techniques for improving English speaking and pronunciation is called shadowing. Many language learners around the world use this method because it helps train both the ears and the mouth at the same time. For busy adults who want to practice English daily, shadowing is a simple and effective routine that can fit into a short amount of time. The shadowing means listening to English audio and repeating what you hear almost immediately. But instead of waiting a long time, you try to repeat the words right after the speaker. In this way, your voice follows the speaker like a shadow. That is why the technique is called shadowing. At first, shadowing may feel a little difficult. When you listen to a sentence, your brain must understand the sounds, recognize the words, and repeat them quickly. This requires concentration and practice. But over time, your brain becomes faster and more comfortable with the process. One of the reasons shadowing is so helpful is because it improves pronunciation. When you repeat sentences after a native or clear speaker, you begin to copy the way they pronounce words. You learn how certain sounds are produced, how words connect together, and how the rhythm of English works. And the English has a natural rhythm that can sometimes be difficult for learners. Words in a sentence may connect smoothly, and some sounds become softer or shorter. When you practice shadowing, you begin to notice these patterns. Gradually, your own speech begins to sound more natural. Another benefit of shadowing is that it improves listening skills. When you repeat what you hear, you must listen carefully to each sound. The Your ears become more sensitive to pronunciation, and you start recognizing words more easily. For example, imagine you hear the sentence, I practice English every day to improve my speaking. When you shadow this sentence, you listen carefully and repeat it right after the speaker. You might say, I practice English every day to improve my speaking. At first, you might need to pause the audio and repeat the sentence slowly. That is perfectly fine. The goal is not to speak quickly, but to speak clearly and accurately. With practice, you will become more comfortable repeating sentences without stopping the audio. Shadowing can be practiced almost anywhere, which makes it perfect for busy adults. For example, you might practice shadowing while walking, commuting, or doing simple tasks at home. All you need is a short audio lesson and a few minutes of concentration. A simple shadowing routine might look like this. Thus, first, listen to a short section of audio carefully. Focus on understanding the general idea. Next, listen again and repeat each sentence out loud. Try to copy the speaker's pronunciation and rhythm as closely as possible. If the sentence feels difficult, you can repeat it several times. Repetition helps your brain remember the sounds and structures of the language. Over time, sentences that once felt challenging will start to feel easy. Another helpful tip is to start with audio that is spoken slowly and clearly. Podcasts designed for English learners are a good choice because they use simple vocabulary and clear pronunciation. As your confidence grows, you can gradually practice with more natural and faster speech. Shadowing also helps improve speaking confidence. Many learners feel nervous when speaking English because they are unsure about pronunciation. But when you practice repeating sentences regularly, your mouth becomes more comfortable producing English sounds. This practice builds muscle memory. Just like athletes train their muscles through repeated movement, language learners train their speech muscles through repeated pronunciation. Instead of memorizing grammar rules, you learn how sentences are actually used in conversation. This helps your brain develop a natural sense of how English works. Even 5 or 10 minutes of shadowing each day can bring noticeable improvement. The key is consistency. When you practice regularly, your listening, pronunciation, and speaking skills grow together. At first, the progress may feel small, but each repetition strengthens the connection between what you hear and what you say. Gradually, you will notice that you can understand more and speak more comfortably. Shadowing is not about perfection. It is about training your brain and your voice to work together. Each practice session brings Beast D you one step closer to speaking English more clearly and confidently. By making shadowing part of your daily routine, you create a powerful habit that supports long-term fluency. With patience and regular practice, this simple technique can transform the way you listen to and speak English. The Another simple and powerful way to practice English every day is by describing your daily life in English. This method is especially helpful for busy adults because it does not require special materials, long study sessions, or a conversation partner. You can practice this technique anywhere and at any time. Many learners feel nervous about speaking English because they believe they must use perfect grammar or advanced vocabulary. This pressure can make speaking feel difficult. However, the goal of daily speaking practice is not perfection. The goal is to help your brain become comfortable using English to express ideas. Describing your daily life is a natural and practical way to build this comfort. When you talk about things that are already familiar to you, it becomes easier to form sentences and share ideas. For example, you can begin by describing simple actions you are doing during the day. The If you are preparing breakfast, you might say, I am making breakfast now. If you are drinking coffee, you can say, I am drinking coffee before work. The These sentences are short and simple, but they help your brain practice thinking in English. You can also describe what you did earlier in the day. For instance, you might say, this morning I woke up at 7 o'clock. Or you could say, I went to work and answered many emails. These simple sentences help you practice past tense while speaking naturally about your life. Another useful idea is talking about your plans. For example, you might say, later today, I will go to the gym, or tonight, I will study English for 20 minutes. Pauses. Talking about plans helps you practice future expressions and organize your thoughts in English. This type of speaking practice trains your brain to use English in real situations. That instead of memorizing sentences from a textbook, you are creating your own sentences based on your daily experiences. The first, you might pause often while trying to find the right words. This is completely normal. When this happens, try to keep your sentences simple. You do not need long or complicated sentences to communicate your ideas. For example, instead of saying a very complex sentence, you can say several short ones. You might say, today was busy. I had many meetings. I also practiced English for a few minutes. These small sentences are easy to form and easy to understand. Another helpful technique is asking yourself simple questions and answering them in English. Oh, for instance, you might ask yourself, what did I do today? Then you answer using 2 or 3 sentences. You could say, today, I worked in the morning. The In the afternoon, I listened to an English podcast. In the evening, I relaxed at home. This small conversation with yourself helps you practice both questions and answers. Over time, it prepares you for real conversations with other people. Describing your environment can also be useful. Look around you and describe what you see. For example, you might say, I am sitting at my desk. Or, the weather is sunny today. The simple descriptions help strengthen your vocabulary and observation skills. Some learners also find it helpful to record their voice while speaking. When you record yourself describing your day, you can listen later and notice how you sound. This allows you to observe your pronunciation and sentence structure. You may notice that some sentences feel easier than others. This is a good sign that your brain is learning patterns and becoming the more comfortable with the language. Another advantage of this method is that it builds confidence. When you practice speaking about familiar topics every day, you begin to feel more relaxed using English. Speaking becomes less stressful and more natural. Over time, your sentences will slowly become longer and more detailed. For example, instead of saying, I worked today, you might say, I worked today and finished an important project. This progress happens naturally as your vocabulary and confidence grow. The most important part of this method is consistency. Even if you speak for only 5 or 10 minutes each day, the habit will strengthen your ability to think and speak in English. The post is so. Language learning works like exercise for the brain. Small, regular practice sessions gradually build strength and flexibility. Each time you describe your daily life in English, you are training your brain to organize thoughts in the language. With patience and repetition, this simple practice can create real progress. Words will come to your mind more easily, sentences will feel smoother, and expressing your ideas will become more comfortable. Step by step, describing your daily life in English helps transform the language from something you study into something you use naturally in everyday situations. Building a simple daily speaking routine is one of the most effective ways for busy adults to improve their English fluency. Many learners try to study English in long sessions, but after a few days, they become tired or busy and stop practicing. This happens because long study sessions can feel difficult to maintain, especially with a busy schedule. A daily routine, even a short one, can help solve this problem. When you create a small and realistic routine, practicing English becomes a natural part of your day. Instead of thinking of English as something you must study for hours, you begin to see it as a daily habit. The brushing your teeth or drinking your morning coffee. The A simple speaking routine does not need to be complicated. In fact, the best routines are often very simple and easy to repeat every day. Or, for example, a daily routine could include 3 small steps: listening, shadowing, and speaking. First, begin with a few minutes of listening. The You might listen to a short English podcast, a lesson for lead earners, or a short conversation. The purpose of this step is to expose your brain to the sounds and rhythm of English. The listening helps you understand how sentences are formed and how words are pronounced. When you listen regularly, your brain becomes familiar with common expressions and sentence patterns. The Even if you do not understand every word, your brain is still learning from the sounds and structure of the language. The the second step of the routine is shadowing. After listening to a short part of the audio, try repeating the sentences out loud. This is called shadowing. You listen to the speaker and repeat the sentence immediately after hearing it. Shadowing helps improve pronunciation, rhythm, and speaking confidence. When you repeat sentences regularly, your mouth becomes more comfortable producing English sounds, the best impressions. Now comes the over time. Speaking begins to feel smoother and more natural. During shadowing practice, try to copy the speaker's pronunciation and rhythm. Do not worry if your pronunciation is not perfect. The goal is simply to practice and become more comfortable with the language. The third step of the routine is speaking. After listening and shadowing, spend a few minutes speaking in your own words. You might describe your day, talk about something you learned, or answer simple questions. For example, after listening to a lesson about daily habits, you might say, "Today, I worked in the morning. The After work, I practiced English for 10 minutes." These simple sentences help your brain practice expressing ideas. The You can also ask yourself questions and answer them. For example, you might ask, "Why do I want to learn English?" Then you answer with a few sentences. This practice helps you organize your thoughts and speak more confidently. One important part of building a routine is choosing a time that fits your schedule. Some people prefer practicing in the morning before work. Buzzers prefer practicing in the evening after finishing their daily tasks. The best time is the time you can repeat consistently every day. Even if your routine lasts only 10 or 15 minutes, it can still be very effective. What matters most is consistency. When you practice a little every day, your brain continues learning and strengthening language skills. Another helpful idea is tracking your progress. You might keep a small notebook where you write the date and the amount of time you practiced. Seeing your progress can help you stay motivated and proud of your effort. It is also important to be patient with yourself. Some days, your practice may feel easy, while other days, it may feel more challenging. This is completely normal. Bo. Language learning is a gradual process, and progress often happens step by step. The Instead of focusing only on large goals, try to appreciate small improvements. For example, you may notice that you understand more words in a podcast, or that you can speak for a longer time without stopping. These small achievements are signs that your routine is working. Over time, your daily routine becomes a strong habit. Your brain begins to expect English practice each day, and speaking becomes more natural. Words appear more quickly in your mind, and sentences become easier to form. Eventually. This small routine helps transform English from something you study into something you use confidently. Listening, shadowing, and speaking each day create a powerful combination that supports long-term fluency. Patience, consistency, and a simple routine. Even busy adults can make steady progress. The step, step by step, your confidence grows, your pronunciation improves, and speaking English becomes a comfortable and enjoyable part of your daily life.